Hi, and welcome back to the course. In this particular section in the course, we're going to talk about understanding your code better. So what does that mean? Well, first off, we're going to help you understand mapping dependencies. Let's understand the dependencies as they exist in your application across your code base. How do those dependencies interact with each other? What parts of the application are dependent on other? And how tight are those dependencies or loosely coupled are those dependencies? We're going to take a look at all that through the mapping dependencies video. Then we're going to move on to code maps. When you have extremely large code bases, it can be very easy to kind of get lost in the weeds of the code. And so what code maps allow us to do is to show and visualize the actual application's large code bases in a way that's digestible, especially if you have someone new on your team. So maybe you have a new individual, they're going to be working in your application, it's a brownfield application, they want to hit the ground running, so you give them the opportunity to use code maps to kind of see how the application's laid out in the different pieces. And then lastly, we're going to talk about code map analyzers. So this is all about identifying overly complex code and trying to find ways to maybe not have it as complex, to make it more maintainable, get that maintainability index down. So again, those things are the we're going to talk about in this particular course. In this particular section of the course, we're talking about understanding your code better. In this particular video, we're talking about mapping dependencies across solutions. So when we talk about mapping dependencies, we're talking about generating a map that's a visual representation of our code and how it's all interconnected with each other. And you can tell from the image here, there's different colors of lines for different I'm making different statements. So the purple may mean one thing, green means another, and how they're connected to each other. Fatter or thinner will dictate how much the dependency is there. Is it tightly coupled or loosely coupled? So again, we want to dive in and take a look at those code maps and make sure we understand our code better. So what I want to do is just go into the demo environment, and I want to show you what a code map looks like and how we go about mapping our dependencies. So let's go look at mapping dependencies in Visual Studio 2017. Okay, so I'm back here in my demo environment, and I want to show you how we go about mapping our dependencies across our projects here. So I'm in a solution called Mercury Health, and I'm going to right-click on that solution, the top level node, and I'm going to scroll down to the Show on Code Map option. Click on that. And what this will do is it builds a code map of the application. And you can see here it's going through different phases. It's getting the links between them. And there we go. We have an actual code map created. So we can stretch this out a little bit. Oh, it's going to move the whole thing. Let's get it this way. There we go. And you can see now we're starting to break this out into different sections. And you can see more and more the mappings are drawn and how everything's interconnected with each other. Again, this is a really good way in order to work with our application so we can start to visualize what the application actually looks like, before we actually can dive in, and so we don't get lost in the code, for example. We want to make sure we understand what the code looks like. And so what else this allows us to do is see where we might be not following best practices when architecting our solution. For example, maybe we're going straight to the data tier from the front end and we shouldn't be, so we want to make sure we address that. Again, it's a great image into the application you're developing, and it helps you to define and follow those best standards, and then also to actually get into the application and use it and view it and understand the code. What's also nice is you can actually use this for like a brownfield project, like I stated earlier. You're coming into a project midstream and you're asked to work on something. In a complex application, it's very difficult to just dive in and know exactly where to start. What the mappings allow you to do is show you how everything's interconnected. So you have the ability now to start somewhere and start looking for how you're going to implement the solution that you've been asked to implement, or maintain the code that you've been asked to maintain. So again, that's really what code maps are for. So let's go back to the slides. I just wanted you to see what a code map was. We're going to go back to the slides and we're going to talk about debugging the application now. Okay, so what did we learn in this particular video? Well, this is a short video and this is a short section, but what we did do is we showed you how to create a code map based off your solution and how to visualize that code. So now you can start to see how is my code interacting with each other. You know, what objects are working with what objects? Are we following best standards when we're architecting the application? Are we taking steps that may be not in the best interest of the application? For example, skipping the middle tier to go straight to the data tier from the front end of the application, which is definitely what you don't want.